Hey, welcome back to a new episode of the series with me reviewing a modern classic, even if it's not a real review. This time it's the Tempest. One of the two flagships when it comes to drum machines or hybrid drum machines. The other one is the analogue rhythm. And they have a lot of similarities. Even the weight is quite the same. The price used to be quite, I think that was a little bit cheaper. So we bought the Tempest on the used market for, I think, 1,300 euros. And I think I'm allowed to say that I'm going to buy it from the Mr. Producer because I was very impressed when I played with it for the first time because I didn't know beforehand that it's an actual real Dave Smith instrument synthesizer in combination with drum sounds. And the sheer possibilities and the sheer sound quality made me really, really awe this thing. Yeah, so let's hear. What do we have here? Okay, I said it's a real Dave Smith synth. What does it mean? Down here on the 16 pads, it's thought of being 16 presets. There's even two banks, so it's 32 presets of a sound. The architecture itself is a 6-voice synth. So the machine is not possible to play more than 6 voices at once. But, of course, it can play 16 different or 32 different sounds after each other. And each voice, each one of those voices has two analog, that's the Dave Smith part actually, two analog oscillators plus a sub-oscillator that they have shapes, sawtooth, triangle, saw triangle, and a pulse width. Then they can sync to each other. They have a glide, a sub-oscillator. They have even a slope for a more analog slope. I don't know how it's called. Sorry, for more analog feel. The digital part, it's 3 and 4, can be samples. There's a list of 464 one-shot samples in here, but one-shot is not actually right. There are even some wavetable synthesizer, waves in there, which play not in the one-shot mode, but just as a waveform. We can hear those, I think. I suggest we hear those. Okay. So, Whim Whistle number 464. So those are the samples. Let's just show you the pure analog path. And it's polyphonic. Not the sequencer, unfortunately. It cannot record chords or anything more than just one note per voice per line, but externally you can play it via MIDI, you can play it all the 6 voices at once, or internally you can. That was the sawtooth. Triangle, saw triangle pulse. I switch on the other oscillator as well. I also switch on the sub-voiced. And I also want to hear some additional We just recognized that in the beginning of this review, there wasn't any bass coming. And the reason why is the main out, the jacks, those are balanced jacks. So it's basically 2 stereo jacks. And there's one thing, Electron does it, but obviously not every manufacturer does it. The thing is, if the pins are connected to both, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's a matter of if you connect this little ring as well. And if you do so, and if you connect this with an XLR, then there is some phase shifting with the connected ring that is going to kill the bass. There are situations where it's even basically eliminating the whole tone. So what Electron does is they just don't connect the ring at all. They just skip it. So you can plug it in whatever you want, and it's not a problem at all. We do this in our instant mastering chain as well. It's just a very universal approach to, well, it's not balanced, yes, but at least something like that doesn't happen. So I need an DI box in between. I still can use those, the stereo ones. Also, there's another issue. The MIDI out, the MIDI protocol says that there should be some type of service voltage coming out from the MIDI out, which is 3 volts, to power up something like a MIDI splitter or a MIDI through device. This thing doesn't send power through the MIDI out. The black box doesn't send power through the MIDI out. Electron sends out power through the MIDI out, and yes, I need it. Oh, sorry. Okay, output 2. Okay, I need to use another input. And now, okay, so the first beat I was playing didn't work out properly because the bass was missing. So let me play it again. What? Sorry. Okay, let me get back into the text. It's 2 analog oscillators, 2 digital oscillators, a low-pass filter that is incredibly capable of just the filter itself making the bass drum. There's a filter in 2 modes. There's a high pass after any voice. Also, there's an audio modulation that reacts on the 2 analog oscillators. There's a feedback which makes everything go very crazy. It's a bit dangerous, actually. A couple of envelopes, 5 of those, 2 LFOs, a mod matrix which has 8 lines of modulation capabilities, a mixer with a MIDI delay which just repeats the note, sorry, and yeah, that's one sound. and 6 of them can be played simultaneously and in one, how is it called? In one beat, you can save 32 sounds which rely on this architecture. Are you overwhelmed? I hope so, because I am as well. Oh, on the main out, there's a distortion and a compressor. There's some real-time effects, which, depending on which mode you are, do 2 different types of things. And before I talk more, I just play another beat. Another one. The distortion on the main out is clearly recognizable once you switch it on, because it narrows the frequency spectrum quite heavily. The compressor is capable of reacting on only one of those instruments, which makes it some type of sidechain compression. Here in this preset, I don't hear it too much. Yeah, it's very clicky. Without compression, with compression. Yeah, so those buttons down here are the most important ones, because they switch in between different modes. In the beats mode, you can choose the beat, which is pre-programmed in the step, in the 16 time steps. That's like the normal step sequencer, which we're kind of used to. In the sounds, you can actually play the sounds if they're not muted. Okay, not the most expressive ones, I'm sorry. And this is the mute mode. Then with those 2 active, it's 16 different velocity levels. With this active, it's a... Let me switch to sound, which is useful. Depending on if you're in the sounds or in the mutes mode, the screen does something different. Because when you're in mutes mode, then and you're on the pads, it just shows the on and off mute. But in the sounds menu, it has a layer which is kind of on top of any of the individual sounds. And it's like a semi-macro. The sliders can be applied as an actual macro on the modulation matrix, but the sounds menu, when you're in the mute mode, is above all those. And it's also, it has like a little bit of a simpler view. So, or the high pass, for example. I can longer any decay from any sound. Also the attack. Lower the pitch, heighten. And let's try the amp, the feedback. I'm afraid. And let's get back with the reverb knob. So when I found this out, I was like, woo, woo. And my wife was like, are you serious? Okay, let's try another beat. Also, this revert semi-macro on any sound works on just an individual sound with this revert sound knob down here. So if you like the bass drum and work with it a bit, oh, there's some LFO applied. But it's a combination, isn't it? With the sine. And you don't like it anymore, just go back here. And then it's in the saved state. And I don't think it needs to be actively saved. In the moment where you switch to that mode, it just remembers the parameters that have been there before. At least it's in the general semi macro thing. Another one. Here you are. This one. So this relies on a wave table from, it's just one sound, just the digital oscillator. Sub oscillator on, I'm curious. Okay, the sub oscillator only works when the other one is on as well. Another one. Okay, another one. Let's use this as a synth with white noise. That's nice. Triangle. Okay, I think there should be a little bit of a pitch envelope. There's something about the groove in this machine that is really engaging somewhat. And the swing in there also, the sequencer allows you to switch off the quantization. And I think in between the 16th, it's like 5 different positions where a sound can be, but it really feels very, very natural when you place something in there, and how it plays it back feels pretty much exactly how you imagine it to be. So this part from Roger Linn, I suppose, has been made very, very impressively good. It's only the machine that feels as natural as well, if a machine can feel natural anyway. There's one thing which annoyed me a bit. I had this machine on 118 BPM and I recorded something longer for like 7 minutes. In the end, in my sequencer, it came out to be 117.6. It was quite annoying that the difference between what was dialed in here and how useful it was in the end, if you record something as long as this, was so different. I don't know if the quartz that gives the clock in here is not as fresh anymore. Can the quartz not be fresh? I doubt it. Okay, the pads are cool. They're good to play, but they have quite a wide blind spot. So you see, it's very easy to tap them without triggering. Here we are. I already had the most sensitive. That's maybe a bit better. It's a bit better. Still, the blind spot is, for my taste, way too big. Still, it's so much better than those. So it's totally possible to play on them. I didn't use the real-time FX too much. I think when I'm in this mode, wait, here, they also change all the sounds at once. And of course it can be latched, so it's like that, or like that. What I really liked when composing all those beats, I started with something very simple, very 80s sounding. Like the general sounds here are very noisy, very analogish, and then tweak them all at once to make them strange. I mean, wow. And then use this as the saved state and start from there with a new normal sound on top. This is what I really, really liked. And doing something organic in the mid and high range was difficult. I suppose it's difficult on any static sampler. Yeah, it cannot sample in itself. It's just a sample player. You cannot even load samples in there, which is a difference to this machine. So to show it again. Yeah. You can go in depth like a rabbit hole that is going to take some time to get to the very, very lowest detail level and to be able to control it. I'm afraid I have different things to do, but even when scratching a little bit deeper than the upper surface is so rewarding, it's crazy. It's really crazy. I know it's a love-hate story in the community because, especially in the beginning, it was the OS wasn't the most stable ones, and they promised some features which weren't even implemented still. It's the latest OS. I think in the very beginning, when I had the machine 3 months ago, I had like 2 crashes. Since then, I don't have any more. And for my taste, I didn't follow the whole discussion completely. So for me, the machine is what it is. And I'm totally fine with it. What is it? It's a fully fledged Dave Smith 6-voice analog synthesizer in combination with one-shot samples that have been selected very, very well. The interface isn't the most smooth and obvious that I ever use, but it's very, very powerful. I miss the possibility of parameter locks, which it cannot do. Apart from that, it's like really, it's a fully fledged synth, like a real proper synth that you can play from the outside with your keyboard and you get sound. Yeah. You see, like there's this one thing in the UI which I really don't like, and I'm disappointed of those two brilliant brains that I didn't recognize that. If you want to be fast and fluent, it's a shame that you need to recognize what you're doing before doing it by only those 4 LEDs. Like those are the ones that makes the difference between life and death on stage. So if you change by accident a beat because you see what happens, that's really the thing that I don't like about it. And also programming this event sequencer here, the events on the sequencer, programming them is also a little bit of a pain in the, you know what I'm about to say. I don't know what the playlist, how this thing works, but I don't like song modes anyway. Oh yeah, there's the reverse possibility. Let me show you. It's also kind of a macro that just switches the envelope. Wait. That's cool. So you definitely can use it live because it sounds so good. I haven't talked too much about the sound. The synthesizer sounds very impressive. What I really like about the bass drums, and yes, this thing can do bass drums, they're not the deepest and the most powerful ones, which makes them useful. So even only for the bass drums, I want to keep this, to be able to have those a little bit upper punchy bass drums. Yeah, I'm afraid on stage you run into problems when changing those modes and when by accident doing something which you didn't want it to. And also the display, for example, we hear in one sound, yeah? Okay, this right symbol. The display to the right has 2 pages on oscillator 1, 2 pages on oscillator 2, 3 pages on the digital oscillator. Then I can go down here to the filter, and the filter has another page. Then I'm on the volume page, the different envelopes, the LFOs, the mod matrix, the choke pads and voice assignment, because it has 6 individual outs, so all the 6 voices can be routed out individually, which is incredible. It has 2 pedal switches, by the way, and the USB works just nowadays with MIDI over USB, but that's it. It's so much in here that I think I would feel more safe if I use it in the studio. On stage, it's probably too complicated, but I know people are doing it, and with a little bit more of practice, it's totally possible to have it on stage. Yeah. Thanks for watching. This was me, Stimming, reviewing the Tempest.